Ferrari arrives at Imola with few certainties and many unknowns, while McLaren flies. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile ends up under accusation, and Piastri dreams of entering history alongside Senna. But is everything really written, or could this weekend change the course of the championship? Stay with me because we are about to enter the heart of the Imola weekend. If you like the videos, hit like to support me, and now let's get started right away. In recent days, Ferrari has carefully analyzed the data collected in the hope of identifying concrete solutions, even though expectations for the Italian weekend remain rather low. Frédéric Vasseur himself explained that the most significant updates are expected for the Spanish Grand Prix, where the new technical directive wanted by the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile to limit the use of flexible wings will also come into effect. In the meantime, an updated beam wing could debut at Imola with the aim of providing more margin in the adjustment of the setup and achieving an improvement in the aerodynamic load on the rear axle. It's not a revolutionary evolution, but it could represent a concrete help in the setup, a point increasingly decisive over the course of this season. One of the main goals of the weekend is to find a setup that allows the car to function in the best possible way, taking full advantage of the characteristics of the circuit. Even though Ferrari won't bring major updates, the return to the classic format with 3 free practice sessions could help the work, the simulator, and the preparation for the weekend. One aspect where the SF25 might have a slight advantage concerns the management of the curbs. The car's ability to absorb the vibrations generated by jumps on the curbs, thanks to the suspension setup, is a strength compared to Red Bull and can especially help on a track like Imola. Last year, the single-seater particularly struggled on the straight, while it was able to defend itself better in the more driven sections. This time too, Ferrari will have to work to make the most of the slow sections, provided they can get the aerodynamics to work in the right window. Ground clearances will be another key element, given that the uneven asphalt forces the cars to be lifted, an aspect that could level the playing field or penalize those who manage to run with more aggressive setups. Another big unknown will be the management of the tires. Imola will also test the teams in this area, especially with the introduction of the new Pirelli C6 compound, which has never been used before. With no data available, it will be crucial to understand how to behave during the warm-up phase, especially considering that the circuit tends to overheat the tires towards the end of the lap. In 2024, Ferrari had difficulty activating tires in the early lap stages, particularly in the first chicane. If they manage to improve this aspect this year, interesting progress could be made, even though the SF25 continues to suffer from understeer and has difficulty warming up the front in qualifying. The weather for the 2025 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix seems to promise a calm weekend. Despite Imola being affected by rain and storms these days, with a yellow alert until Thursday, the weather should stabilize from Friday, leaving room for ideal conditions for track activities. The forecast is clear. From Friday to Sunday, clear or only slightly cloudy skies are expected. In short, barring last-minute surprises, the rain variable, often a protagonist in Imola, should stay out of the game this time. When a team starts to dominate in Formula 1, controversy is not far behind. This is what's happening to McLaren, which continues to make headlines for the technical solutions it has adopted in tire management. The issue had already emerged weeks ago when a particular configuration of the front brakes on the MCL39 was noticed. The modifications mainly concern the ducts, designed to increase the heat exchange surface and improve tire activation. In addition, there are 2 small appendages that direct the air downwards, helping to push the airflow towards the asphalt and detaching it from the tire in the cleanest way possible. All these technical solutions have been studied to work in harmony with the geometry of the front suspensions, particularly with the degree of anti-dive. Despite some critical voices, McLaren seems to have found the right balance to avoid heat management problems among the various components. It's a high-level engineering job that has allowed the English team to build a significant advantage over the competition. One of the most delicate aspects in today's Formula 1 is the management of tire temperature. Many teams manage to get into the so-called ideal window for only a few laps, while McLaren seems able to maintain it lap after lap. This allows the drivers to fully exploit the potential of the car in every phase of the race on any type of circuit. The behavior of the tires is influenced by many factors: speed, loads, driving style, and track characteristics. Maintaining a constant temperature, both internal and surface, is complicated, and it is in this context that McLaren would be making a difference. The most recent rumors speak of a possible use of phase change materials. the so-called PCMs, capable of absorbing or releasing heat during the transition between physical states, such as from solid to liquid. These materials would allow to absorb the excess thermal energy, keeping the temperature stable for a prolonged period of time. The idea is that they are integrated into small capsules inside the rim. In this way, the excess energy would be temporarily stored to prevent the excessive increase in tire temperature, a phenomenon known as overheating. Everything should be perfectly calibrated to avoid side effects or inefficiencies. Of course, there is doubt about how much these technologies are actually used in the race, but the suspicion is legitimate given the leap in quality made by McLaren in the management of compounds. Such a refined management of the tires is today one of the main technical advantages of the MCL39 and perhaps also one of the keys to its current dominance in the championship. Adrian Newey is preparing to embark on a new chapter of his career. In a few days, we will see him for the first time in the green uniform of Aston Martin during the Monaco Grand Prix weekend. 8 months after the official announcement, the English engineer shared his first impressions since he started working at the Silverstone headquarters. As often happens when entering a new environment, it's not easy to predict what you will find. Yet from the beginning, Newey sensed a welcoming and positive atmosphere which he says was not always taken for granted in the past. The team he joined has seen rapid expansion, the staff has grown numerically, and he found enthusiasm. Newey emphasized that Formula One, despite being based on cutting-edge technology, is primarily a matter of people. It's crucial to build a winning culture, especially in those teams where success has never been the norm. For this reason, he believes it's necessary to develop collective trust and the awareness that they can reach the top. But he also clarified that he's not the type for motivational speeches. He prefers to work, to grow the team day by day. The Aston Martin headquarters has been deeply transformed under the guidance of Lawrence Stroll. The new structure, with advanced simulator and ultra-modern wind tunnel, is now one of the most cutting-edge in the entire paddock. But, Newey pointed out, having the best tools is of little use if you don't know how to make the most of them. In fact, he recalled how in the past, great things were achieved working in much more Spartan environments, but with a perfectly coordinated group of people. Since joining Aston Martin, his focus has been solely on 2025. The new technical regulations involving both the chassis and the power units represent a revolution never seen before in F1. Initially, he thought the new rules were too restrictive for a designer, but upon studying them more deeply, he discovered that there are significant creative margins. So he expects that on the grid we will see very different technical approaches, at least in the first few years. Newey has described this change as interesting and at the same time disturbing. The extent of the changes is such that it makes the work stimulating but also complex. His approach in any case is the same as always. He prefers to draw by hand on drawing boards rather than using digital tools. This allows him to have an overall view and to modify ideas directly on paper. His sketches are then scanned by a small group that translates them into computer-aided design format. He admitted that sometimes those drawings are so personal that they are difficult to decipher, even for him. On the current project, the AMR25 has only made a marginal contribution with some informal discussion among colleagues. The real challenge is the future. He finally emphasized how much F1 is tied to simulation software today. Talent matters, but you also need an infrastructure capable of translating ideas into reliable data. Purchasing a computational fluid dynamics system or simulator is insufficient. You must know how to model, adapt, and enable communication between them. It's a job of refined engineering made up of 95% daily effort and only 5% inspiration. It's this blend of logic and creativity that makes Formula One so captivating for those who, like him, have been immersed in it for a lifetime. A new front of controversy opens up around the president of the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, Mohamed Ben Sulayem. What sparked the case this time was a confidential document leaked to the British press, particularly to the British Broadcasting Corporation, which revealed some proposed changes to the Federation's statute. Changes that, according to many, seem to be deliberately designed to hinder the possible candidacy of Carlos Sainz Sr. in the upcoming presidential elections scheduled for the end of the year. One of the proposed changes has generated more controversy than the rest. They want to insert a new clause that requires candidates not to have anything in their profile that could question their professional integrity. Formally, the reason would be to fill a regulatory gap, but in fact, this change would pave the way for prior control by two bodies. First, the nomination committee, then the ethics committee for suspected violations. However, both are already under the direct control of President Ben Sulayem following a previous round of reforms. For this very reason, many observers see this move as an indirect but targeted attack on Carlos Sainz Sr., father of a driver currently on the grid with Williams. The presence of his son in Formula One could easily be seen as a potential conflict of interest, a sufficient reason under the current code of ethics to block a candidacy in the preliminary stage. The timing and wording of the changes, according to the British Broadcasting Corporation, leave little doubt about the real intentions behind this proposal. But it doesn't end there. The president of the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile also aims to change the mechanism for appointing members of the Senate. Today, 4 out of 16 are chosen by him and then confirmed by the other members, but with the new proposal he would have direct appointment power without any intermediate step. The duration of the terms for the internal committees review, ethical and nominations would also be aligned with that of the president himself, further strengthening his internal control. Finally, the deadline for submitting one's candidacy for the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile presidency would also be brought forward. This can be done between 21 and 49 days before the elections, a time window that would officially allow more time to verify the suitability of the candidates. All these changes will be subject to vote at the next Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile General Assembly, scheduled in a few weeks. Meanwhile, many are wondering whether these moves are a legitimate attempt to strengthen the federation's governance or just a way to cut off in advance any potential uncomfortable rivals. The McLaren dominance at the start of this season has been clear. 6 races contested, 5 overall victories. Of these, a good 4 went to Oscar Piastri, who also leads the drivers' standings and is preparing to hit the track at Imola with a special goal. If he were to also win in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, the Australian would equal one of the most prestigious records in McLaren's history, reaching an absolute icon of Formula One in Ayrton Senna. With the successes obtained from Bahrain to Miami, Piastri has already matched Mika Hakkinen in terms of consecutive victories with the Woking team. The Finn won 3 between 1997 and 1998, paving the way for his first world title. Oscar now aims to achieve 4 consecutive victories, matching Senna's record. The legendary Brazilian achieved this twice, the first in 1988 in his debut year with McLaren, winning consecutively at Silverstone, Hockenheim, Budapest and Spa, the second in 1991 with triumphs at Phoenix, Interlagos, Imola and Monte Carlo in the season of his 3rd and last world title. In both cases, 4 consecutive centers, always with the same shirt. If Oscar should also triumph at Imola and then at Monaco, he could not only surpass Senna in the special McLaren internal ranking, but also approach another historic milestone, the 5 consecutive victories of Jack Brabham in 1960, the most ever achieved by an Australian driver in F1. So Imola could become the stage for a new page in history. Piastri is in form, McLaren is the car to beat, and the name he dreams of matching or perhaps surpassing is one of those that have left an indelible mark in this sport. Piastri is ready and highly motivated for this weekend's Imola race, approaching it with confidence and a drive to keep pushing forward. It's a fascinating track with iconic points like the mineral waters and the Piratella, and I'm really looking forward to tackling it at the wheel of the MCL39. I feel in great shape and I'm very focused. I want to start this phase of the season in the best way possible. Lando Norris, on the other hand, is called to react after accumulating a 16-point deficit from his teammate. He too looks at Imola with enthusiasm. I really like this track and I can't wait to race there again. It was nice to return to McLaren's headquarters after Miami to celebrate with the team, but now we are focused on what lies ahead. We have a very competitive car and we need to continue on this path. Among the harshest voices is that of Ralf Schumacher, former Formula One driver and now a television commentator. Speaking on a German podcast, Schumacher did not mince words in judging the British driver's overtaking skills. According to him, Norris shows clear limitations in this fundamental aspect. Schumacher expressed his opinion about limitations he believes he will never overcome. He also directly compared himself to other drivers. There are some who can perfectly read situations and construct overtakes intelligently. Max Verstappen is the first example, but also Piastri and even Berman, a rookie, do it better than Norris. According to the German, Lando is not cut out for these situations and can only express his potential when he is in front, with a clear track and without having to confront body to body with other opponents. He will not learn anymore, he added. This was also seen in Miami, where he tried but always found himself in the wrong place. It's a structural problem with his way of running. The only way he can aspire to the title is by dominating, starting in front and without making mistakes. Only in this way can he have a chance. Blunt opening remarks, skilled but limited in close combat. The track will be the sole judge of a driver who is still developing, so it may be too early to pass judgment. The Miami weekend offered the first glimpse into the future of Formula One with the official announcement of the Cadillac F1 team, which will join the championship as the 11th team from 2025. The presentation, held at the Queen in Miami Beach, was a high-impact event, even though it did not include the typical unveiling of a show car for the new 2026 model. Nevertheless, the American team, supported by the strength of General Motors, is preparing with commitment and determination to make a mark. A historic event for motorsport in the United States. The chief executive officer of TWG Motorsports, Dan Torres, outlined in an interview the progress of the project, emphasizing that the team has already reached important milestones. The car is in development in the wind tunnel, the chassis has been finalized, and the stuff is constantly being expanded. He emphasized how the deep collaboration with General Motors, and in particular with Cadillac, represents a distinctive element that will characterize the approach of this participation. The new team will have 3 operational headquarters, 2 in the United States, 1 in Fishers, Indiana, which will serve as the main factory, and another in Warren, Michigan, in addition to a headquarters in Silverstone, Great Britain. The engine department will be centered in North Carolina. In principle, to ensure synergy and continuity, Cadillac will initially rely on Ferrari for the power unit for at least the first 3 seasons. Mark Ruiz, president of General Motors, commented on how this choice represents a thoughtful strategy, which involves a slow but steady development process aimed at creating a competitive and reliable power unit. He added that the philosophy adopted, "to go fast you must first go slow," is fundamental to achieving high performance in such a demanding environment. On the driver's front, the team seems interested in confirming the involvement of Sergio Perez, whose presence is now considered certain. However, for the second driver, the possibility of including an American talent, symbolizing the desire to bring a Stars and Stripes driver to the grid, is being carefully considered. Among the options being considered is even the engagement of a Mexican driver as a possible companion for Perez, or alternatively the potential entry of Colton Herta, a name much discussed in the IndyCar scene, or the idea, advanced in some circles, of freeing up Rookie Pato Award, currently a reserve for McLaren. Some commentators have even put forward the name of Mick Schumacher, currently engaged with Alpine in the World Endurance Championship in terms of contact with the American environment. Another hot topic concerns the impact of the commercial tariffs imposed by the United States, an issue that continues to influence trade relations between America and Europe. According to statements by Mark Royce, although the potential impact on overall costs has been estimated at around $5 billion, with a tariff still at 25% on some imports, this burden will not significantly affect the Cadillac FIA. One project, General Motors' strategy and commitment in the sector remain firm, and the team is determined to overcome the difficulties related to tariffs without compromising their competitiveness. In summary, Cadillac's arrival in Formula One promises to bring a breath of fresh air and innovation thanks to a solid organizational infrastructure, strategic collaborations, and a particular focus on driver engagement. The Miami presentation highlighted an ambitious project capable of making a name for itself both for its technical approach and for its desire to carve out a prominent place in the global Formula One landscape. If you liked the video, hit like, subscribe, and activate the bell so you don't miss the next ones. Let me know what you think in the comments, and see you next time.